Mr. Chairman, at the outset, I would like to express in turn my deep sadness over the failure of the permanent representative of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in his attempts to read my brain children before I take the floor. Despite the fact that he never consulted with me with regard to the draft resolution which he is presenting against my country in this committee. In consequence, my prestigious colleague, with all love as well, is behaving exactly as his regime is behaving. The Saudi regime is interfering in the internal affairs of my country, and the representative of Saudi Arabia is interfering in my thoughts. He wants me to think the same way he wants me to think. Not as I wish and not as dictated by the interests of my country. Mr. Chairman, the introduction by the Saudi delegation on behalf of a group of its allies, I say introduction of a draft resolution criticizing the situation of human rights in Syria, is a strange paradox in itself, because the Saudi regime is the last one that is entitled to talking about human rights, given the black record which it relishes in this domain. It would have been better for the Saudi delegation to inform the audience here of the shameful human rights situation in Saudi Arabia itself. Here, we inquire, and the audience also inquire, whether the Saudi regime is willing to apply the paragraphs of this draft resolution with regard to its policies relating to human rights. That is, will the Saudi regime accept applying to itself the provisions of this draft resolution presented against my country by the distinguished representative of Saudi Arabia? This is on the one side, Mr. Chairman. On the other side, it's no secret that the Saudi regime is a main party in fanning the flames of the Syrian crisis, impeding its peaceful and political solution by Syrians themselves in accordance with relevant Security Council resolutions. The position of the Saudi regime will only lead to continuation of violations of human rights of the Syrians by the armed terrorist Takfiri groups supported by that regime, which bombarded Beirut today at the hands of two suicidal terrorist Takfiri Wahhabi. It's no secret that Saudi Arabia is the only state in the world which has not officially declared its backing for the convening of Geneva II. Rather, it has exercised its full influence on the armed groups financed by it and the other parties of the opposition, which are their protégé, inciting them not to participate in Geneva II. Saudi Arabia, dear colleagues, is the sole member that refused to receive the Special Representative of the UN to Syria, Mr. Lakhdar Ibrahimi. It has not supported its efforts. The Saudi regime continues to feed terrorism and violence and to feed bloodletting of the Syrians through chemical weapons The huge wealth in dishonest hands will not buy respect in this international organization. Rather, respect is generated by abidance by the provisions of the Charter and principles of international law and non-interference in the internal affairs of states. The Syrian government, on behalf of the world, is combating misguided Takfiri terrorist groups financed by the regimes of Qatar and Saudi Arabia, and we expect of the member states to support our efforts, the efforts of my government in fighting this terrorism. Mr. Chairman, the Saudi regime, in addition to the Qatari and Turkish regimes, are fully responsible for the continuation of terrorist actions that target civilians, the military, and the infrastructure in Syria. Many reports indicate the involvement of the Saudi regime in attracting dozens of thousands of the Takfiri mercenaries from more than 83 states and moving them over our borders with the neighboring states in the name of jihad, with a view to changing the political reality in Syria by using violence and terrorism. This happens in complete breach of the provision of the Charter as well as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, particularly Article 21, that emphasizes that people are responsible for self-determination with no external interference. Paragraph 20 of the report of the Inquiry Commission on Syria from Human Rights Council, dated 13/9/2013, that the position of Saudi Arabia identifies with that of Al-Qaeda. That paragraph referred to the calls issued simultaneously in Saudi Arabia and by Ayman al-Zawahiri, the leader of Al-Qaeda, that urged Muslims to undertake jihad or struggle in Syria and to present finance and weaponry to these armed conflicts. The advisory opinions of terrorism by Qatar and Saudi Arabia, as well as the chiefs of sedition, stated that Syria is an occupied land and that jihad against its government is a legitimate duty. This is not an interference, this is a jihad. This is a divine imposition on all Muslims that is not affiliated with the Saudi regime. Yet those who are in charge of these advisory opinions have been blinded in their eyes and their insight from a glaring reality known to all in this international organization, that Palestine, the Golan, and part of southern Lebanon are the occupied territory, and that a large part of Saudi Arabia and Qatar are occupied territory also. They host foreign military bases. A response to that paradox has come by Netanyahu, the Prime Minister, when he said to Le Figaro that Saudi Arabia and Israel are using one voice. They speak in one voice. That is what Netanyahu said.